Welcome back to Daily AI News at Let's Data Science. It's 2026-0514. Today, we're diving into some pivotal developments from the future of machine intelligence to major product launches. Let's get to it. We begin with geopolitics and AI hardware, where Reuters reports that the U.S. Commerce Department has approved around 10 Chinese companies to purchase NVIDIA's H200 AI accelerator. According to Reuters, approved buyers include Alibaba, Tencent, and ByteDance, with Lenovo and Foxconn cleared to act as distributors. But here's the critical detail. Reuters says not a single H200 delivery has occurred so far, citing three people familiar with the matter. The H200 is described as NVIDIA's second most powerful AI chip. Historically, Reuters notes, NVIDIA once commanded about 95% of China's advanced chip market before tighter export curbs. China previously accounted for roughly 13% of NVIDIA's revenue, and CEO Jensen Huang has estimated that China's AI market could be worth $50 billion this year. This episode underscores a structural reality for AI infrastructure builders. Export approvals do not automatically translate into shipments. Reuters also reports that NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang joined a White House delegation to Beijing after an invitation, and that President Donald Trump met Huang in Alaska en route to a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. At the same time, Beijing has reportedly introduced tighter supply chain rules, increasing scrutiny of foreign technology dependencies. For practitioners and infrastructure leads, the takeaway is clear. Licensing, secondary regulatory checks, and recipient country rules can all delay hardware flows even after formal approval. Watch for confirmation of actual H200 deliveries, public clarifications from the U.S. Commerce Department or the named firms, and implementation details around China's new supply chain controls. In AI compute markets, policy friction is now a first-order operational variable. Next, from hardware to structural biology, researchers at EPFL have announced a generative AI framework called Latent Diffusion for Full Protein Generation, or LDFPG, capable of producing complete all-atom models of proteins in motion. The team is led by Patrick Barth of the Laboratory of Protein and Cell Engineering and Pierre Vandergeinst of the Signal Processing Laboratory, with researcher Aditya Sengar quoted in coverage. The work was published in the Proceedings of NeurIMS 2025, according to EPFL. What distinguishes LDFPG is methodological. Instead of directly predicting every atomic coordinate, the system learns a low-dimensional latent representation of protein conformational change and applies a latent diffusion process to generate full all-atom ensembles. Coverage emphasizes that the framework reconstructs side chain positions and full motion ranges for targets including G-protein coupled receptors, or GPCRs, a critical class of drug targets. Most practitioners are familiar with AlphaFold as a static structure predictor. EPFL's framing positions LDFPG as generating dynamic movies of proteins rather than single snapshots. If validated against experimental methods like cryo-EM or NMR, this could reduce reliance on computationally expensive molecular dynamics simulations for exploring sidechain rearrangements and conformational ensembles. However, the press coverage does not provide benchmarking metrics. For computational chemists and ML researchers, the key next step is reviewing the NeurIMS paper for quantitative validation, dataset scope, protein size limits, and failure modes. Also watch for release of pre-trained weights or inference code. The difference between a promising methods paper and a workflow integrated tool often comes down to reproducibility and accessibility. From research labs to the streets, Uber is expanding its robotaxi ambitions through a multi-supplier strategy. Reuters reports that Uber and NVIDIA will deploy robotaxis running the Drive Hyperion platform and a reasoning model called AlphaMayo. Data collection and operator-supervised phases are set to begin in Los Angeles and San Francisco in 2027, with expansion planned to 28 cities by 2028. Separately, reporting from the Los Angeles Times and other outlets details an agreement between Uber and Rivian for an upfront purchase of 10,000 R2 vehicles, with an option for 40,000 more and a contingent investment framework that could total $1.25 billion through 2031. Initial deployments are planned for San Francisco and Miami in 2028. Uber has also signed a multi-year partnership with Zoox. Reuters reports Zoox's purpose-built vehicles, which lack conventional controls, will launch in Las Vegas this summer and expand to Los Angeles by mid-2027. Zoox has logged more than 1 million autonomous miles and served over 300,000 riders to date. The strategic pattern here is distribution first. Rather than backing a single autonomy stack, Uber is assembling a portfolio. NVIDIA's Drive Hyperion and Alfa Romeo, Rivian's R2 fleet vehicles, and Zoox's purpose-built platforms. For platform operators, this hedges vendor risk and accelerates geographic coverage. For practitioners in autonomy and fleet operations, watch regulatory approvals, transitions from operator-supervised to fully driverless service, and fleet economics such as cost per mile and uptime. Large conditional vehicle orders and milestone-based investments shift risk toward performance-linked procurement. The real test will be whether these deployments meaningfully change ride-hailing unit economics. Finally, in our top stories, Kubernetes v136, codenamed Haru, has been released with 70 enhancements, 18 graduating to stable, 25 entering beta, and 25 in alpha. According to the Kubernetes release blog and InfoQ, major features reaching general availability include user namespaces, which map container root users to non-privileged host users, mutating admission policies using the Common Expression Language, or CEL, and fine-grained kubelet API authorization, replacing broad nodes proxy permissions with least privilege controls. CLinux volume labeling has also moved to stable, reducing pod startup delays by replacing recursive relabeling with mount time labeling. The release credits contributions from 106 companies and 491 individuals. For platform teams running multi-tenant clusters, the GA of user namespaces and fine-grained kubelet API authorization represents a material tightening of node-level blast radius. Moving mutation logic into native mutating admission policies reduces reliance on external webhooks and can lower control plane latency. Teams planning upgrades should audit manifests for IP and CIDR validation changes flagged in SIG discussions, test user namespaces in staging, and evaluate migration paths from external admission webhooks to CEL-based policies. As AI and machine learning workloads continue migrating onto Kubernetes, these security and scheduling primitives become foundational. Now, for a few other key updates in our lightning round. According to GB Hackers, unpatched Langflow instances vulnerable to CV 2026-3301 are being exploited to extract AWS Access Key ID and AWS Secret Access Key values. Citing the Sysdig Threat Research Team, the report says attackers validated stolen credentials using ST's get caller identity and queried services including Amazon Bedrock, S3, EC2, Lambda, and IAM. The campaign reportedly used a hardened NAT server at 45.192.19.25.14222 to coordinate a worker pool dubbed Key Hunter. The vulnerability is listed in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. Operators should monitor for unusual Bedrock API calls and outbound NATS connections. Bloomberg and Fox Business report that OpenAI Vice President of Global Affairs Chris Lehane endorsed creating a U.S.-led global AI governance body that would include China, comparing it to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Lehane suggested linking the U.S. Commerce Department's Center for AI Standards and Innovation with global AI safety institutes. No formal charter has been announced, but policy watchers should track concrete proposals and verification standards. Reuters reports that Microsoft is shopping for AI startups as it prepares for a future less dependent on OpenAI. The company reportedly considered acquiring code generation startup Cursor, but backed away over regulatory concerns tied to GitHub Copilot. Microsoft's venture fund M12 invested in Inception's $50 million seed round in late 2025, and talks are reportedly ongoing, with competition from buyers, including SpaceX. TechCrunch and Dataconomy report that Notion launched a developer platform featuring Workers, a cloud sandbox for custom code, and an external agent API supporting Claude Code, Cursor, Codex, and Decagon. Notion says users have built over 1 million custom agents since February, and Workers will be free for experimentation through August. And finally, Vapi has raised a $50 million Series B led by Peak XV Partners at a $500 million valuation. TechCrunch reports that Amazon Ring evaluated more than 40 vendors and now routes 100% of inbound customer support calls through Vapi's platform. Vapi says it has processed over 1 billion calls to date and handles between 1 and 5 million calls per day. And that's your AI briefing for today. The landscape is moving faster than ever, and we'll be here to track it with you. For more insights, visit us at letsdatascience.com. Thanks for tuning in, stay curious, and we'll be back tomorrow with the latest in AI.